Hi, everybody. In this movie, I'm going to show you some ways that you can get better quality graphics for your e-learning projects. Whether you're creating them yourself, which I try to do as much as possible, or purchasing some online, which I also do, or maybe your client or a colleague gives you your graphics, let's talk about some ways that you can really up your game when it comes to making a visual presentation. First of all, if you're going to buy stock art, buy quality stock art. There are some really good online sources. Find one that has styles that you like and stick with it. Trade services with photographers or illustrators. So if you aren't a photographer and you need some really good quality photos, maybe there's a service you can offer, such as designing the photographer's business card or something like that. Trading services is something I do a lot. Get inspiration on better looking graphics or seeing styles that other people are doing. Some of my favorite places are Pinterest. Adobe Behance is a great place to look. It's a portfolio site, but it's also a great place to look for inspiration and for jobs as well. Twitter is another good place to look. You can use hashtags to filter out different types of graphics or styles. And of course, Googling things is also a good idea. Research different styles of buttons and choose one for consistency. So I like flat design, or you might like material design, or there might be other styles that you like. Find a style you like and be consistent with that throughout your projects so that your user gets used to that look and feel. Mixing artwork with different perspectives is really confusing, so choose compatible artwork. So if you're showing different products from different angles, maybe one is straight on and another one is from the top, that can be confusing. So whether you're creating artwork or photos, try to get them all from the same perspective. Using simple graphics to enhance your design and help tell a visual story is a great way to make your projects just look better. So instead of me just listing a book title, here I just threw a simple graphic in just to get that point across in a visual way. You can still list the title, but if you've got a graphic with it, it just makes it drives the point home that much better. I'm not a big fan of mixing photos and artwork together if you can help it, but sometimes there's no way around that. But try to find styles that are not competing with each other, that are compatible. Use Adobe Illustrator, which is what I use, to create multiple versions of a graphic that you might want to reuse over and over again. So here I have a simple file folder that I created in Illustrator, and those top three show you the what it would look like if I just made it different colors and saved them out from Illustrator. But here I get the same effect down here. I just use different colors. But in PowerPoint, I can use the recolor artwork feature to go in and add those colors right in the my e-learning program. I can do it in Storyline or I can do it in PowerPoint. So the point is whether you're doing it ahead of time in Illustrator, and I save mine out as high quality transparent pings, or whether you're doing the recoloring right in PowerPoint or Storyline, it's a great way to add some continuity throughout your course where people get used to seeing that same graphic if it's being used for a particular purpose, like maybe on the transition slide when you're going to another topic or another lesson, you might throw that graphic in so that they get used to seeing it all the time. Adobe Illustrator has symbols that can be turned into artwork, for example, buttons or some of the other graphics that they have in the symbol libraries. Just put that graphic on your page, that symbol, I should say, on your page in Illustrator, right click on it and choose Break Link to Symbol, and then you'll have vector artwork that you can go in and recolor on your own. Color can also be used to solidify a design, but it should have a purpose. So this green is a little bright for my taste to use throughout a course, but it would be a great accent color. So you can see up here where I've got the buttons, they're highlighted when I'm on that page. That bright green might be a good choice for something like that as well. I like to avoid bright red unless it's part of my client's brand. Red signifies danger and in some cases negativity to a lot of people, and so I've been told to avoid it. I use orange instead. A gray color scheme is a great idea. It's kind of classy looking, and you can throw an accent color in, like blue, or I've used orange before, but that's a really nice look if you want to keep it more monotone, but just throw in an accent color. And the text that I have on this button, I'm making a point here that contrast is very important. You can barely read this text. I can barely read it on the screen myself. And on some monitors, depending on the brightness settings, that could disappear altogether. So keep contrast in mind. Here's another reason to keep contrast in mind. Contrast is important for handicapped learners. People who are visually impaired use a machine called a screen reader that helps interpret the content for them. And so something like that might not be readable and it might not translate, and therefore they may miss that content altogether. Shapes of color can add detail and dimension to a slide. And again, this is my style, maybe not necessarily yours, but I just want to give some examples. So here I've got this graphic that was supplied by my client, but just by putting some blocks of color behind it, gives it a little bit more of a solid look. So I just used a dark gray and I used a light gray bar on top of it so that things in the distance tend to get lighter. It gives it a little bit more distance to it. Here's another example where just a plain building, and here I put some blocks of color. I used some ovals to create clouds. I used some different shapes to create trees. I created sidewalks down here. These are just PowerPoint shapes I added. So, and again, I use that light green to signify that distance. It just makes it look more like a building instead of it just floating in space. And here's my third one. This one was just a desk that I drew, but again, it looks like it's floating in space. But if I put a shape underneath it and a potted plant on it, as I've done here, it just gives it a little bit more dimension and makes it look like a little bit more realistic. So these are some ideas that I have on ways you can incorporate graphics into your e-learning projects and really make your projects look visually more appealing.